Baseball winter meeting's a wrap, but the Cubs' quest to add Kyle Tucker to the roster isn't. And he's a difference maker. But what would he mean to the Cubs? And is the price that they would have to give up to get him worth it? Saying that it could happen in the next day or so. And we'll talk about that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's talk some Cubs baseball, folks. Let's get the show started. All right, guys, Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel. Thanks for being here. At Broadcaster Mick on the socials, and always great to talk to you on a daily basis, sometimes more about the Cubs. So right now, there's just so much buzz going on about the Cubs and trades. And Jed Hoyer, he didn't make it a secret that the Cubs aren't working in free agency. They're kind of busted as far as their budget or his ability to spend money. So the only way that this roster is going to change is by him going out and making trades. And one of those trades includes this guy right here, Kyle Tucker. And is Tucker going to be traded in the next 48 hours, next day or so? Some reports are starting to come out that there is a possibility that this could happen. Yankees and Cubs are friends at Bleacher Nation, kind of posted it. You see, the beat writers that follow the Astros saying that this is a deal that the Astros are considering. They love Kyle Tucker, but the issue is that Kyle Tucker is maybe set to make $35 million over the next 10 years. And if that's the case, the Astros don't feel like they've got the money to be able to pay him. And we just saw Juan Soto go through this, and he made a ton of money. The Cubs have that kind of capital. But are they willing to do it? And is he going to be a fit? The best part about what the Yankees did with Juan Soto is they got to the World Series, right? So the results are there. The other thing is that they had a chance to see if he could play in their market, and then the Mets came in and paid him all the money, and he's going to stay in New York, but he can handle that. This deal, to me, is one that's very dangerous and risky for the Cubs. But if I'm Jed Hoyer and I'm trying to basically save my career, save the front office, get the team into the playoffs, and really have a shot to win something and overcome teams like the Dodgers and the Mets and the Padres and the Phillies, and all these teams that have star players, you got to have some star power. And I get that. And the only way you're going to be able to do that without spending is by trades. And Tucker has 1 year left, and then he's going to be a highly sought after free agent. But when you start looking at Tucker and what he brings to the table and how good he is, he's comparable to Juan Soto, to Mookie Betts, to Corey Seager. And those guys are champions, right? Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, and Juan Soto have all won championships. Oh, and guess who else has too? Tucker. So the reason that these guys are sought after is their ability to play, but their ability to win, and also the way that they change the clubhouse environment. And it's no secret that it takes guys not only be great on the field, but great in the clubhouse, driving the team to play their best. And I think that's something that the Cubs could desperately use. And if Tucker came in, I feel like he'd be a guy that could help in that area. Now, the other thing is, what are you willing to give up to get him? Well, one of those names that keeps on popping up is Seiya Suzuki. He's a really good player. Let's not take that away from him. Dealt with some injuries. His play in right field isn't excellent. And he's been a DH. He doesn't want to do that. He's got a no trade clause. I got a feeling that the Cubs have a good enough relationship with him. If he knows he's going to play right field every day and not have to be a DH, that he may want to do that. And he's going to want to go somewhere that the roster fits him. And the Astros are going to need an outfielder with Tucker leaving, right? The other thing is maybe Isaac Paredes. It'd be the other guy you're hearing in the trade, the third baseman that the Cubs got last year from the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a former all-star, but he didn't play like an all-star with the Cubs. But if Alex Bregman signed somewhere else, guess what you need if you're the Astros? You need a third baseman. And so you lose Tucker and Bregman, you bring in Seiya Suzuki and Isaac Paredes. I mean, it's not the same, but it's not like you're falling out. You still have guys that can go out there and contribute. So they do that, and then who knows who else is involved in this deal. You keep hearing other names pop up. Would the Cubs be willing to trade one of their young prospects in this deal? I don't know. And I think that that's the real dangerous part to me. If you're the Cubs, you're going to mortgage your future with a guy that's only going to be around for a year. And I think that because the front office is on a 1-year contract, basically lame duck, if you will, but not necessarily. Look, if they get re-signed, it's not lame duck. But if they don't, then it's, that's what it would be. You're a little more willing to take a risk, right? And so we'll find out. Maybe they trade Smith. He just drafted him last year out of Florida State. He was actually really good, got all the way to Double-A. Maybe they trade one of the other guys that they have. I hope they don't trade Owen Casey. I'm just a big believer in him. Matt Shaw now is their top prospect. I don't see him going in this deal. And then, what do the Cubs get back? That's another question that we'll find out. What fits going both ways. But Kyle Tucker coming to the Cubs in the next 48 hours will be on the watch. And then that kind of leads into another watch, and that's the Cody Bellinger watch. The Yankees are the other name that you keep hearing for Kyle Tucker. But Cody Bellinger makes a lot of sense for them as well. So if you're the Cubs, you get rid of Suzuki and you get rid of Bellinger, you bring in Tucker. Now you have room for some of your prospects. Alexander Canario is a player that could be traded, or if he's not, he's got to be on the big league roster because he's out of options. You got no more Mike Tauchman, so there's a spot there. Pete Crow-Armstrong is going to be the center fielder for this team. I think Owen Casey's a guy you got to find a spot for as well. Mentioned him before. And then, Kevin Alcantara was a guy that got up to the big leagues last year. I still don't totally think that he's ready to be an everyday big leaguer yet, but he's got a lot of talent, or maybe somebody else that the Cubs deal. And hell, they got him from the Yankees. Maybe if you make a deal for Bellinger, you send him back. The problem with the Bellinger deal is that the Cubs want that salary taken, right? $27.5 million, and then the option for next year. Or and if you do that, what are you willing to give back with taking the salary, right? Now, the Yankees are under pressure because of Juan Soto. Their fans thought they were going to have Soto. They lost out to the Mets, so they got Max Fried. They're going to have to do some more things, not just to make the team better, and they do need an outfielder, but also to appease their hungry fan base. And unlike us Cubs fans, I feel like our front office is like constantly like, hey, if we make the playoffs, for the Yankees, they expect to make the playoffs, but they expect to win the World Series, which they haven't done in a while, but they did get there last year. That needs to be the goal every single year with your organization. You need to have your eyes set on winning it all, because I don't think you can mentally win it all unless that's what your goal is. And if you look at the Cubs in 2016, we went into that season knowing that the Cubs had a chance to win, and that's exactly what they did. 2017, they won some games, they made a run. And then since then, we've kind of been going this way where they're not making the playoffs. Yankees fans are going to demand that they go out and get the best. And Cody Bellinger he's not just some slap. I mean, he's actually a really good player that we've kind of said now, well, we're going to trade him partly because of the salary. And then I guess as well, there's just not a position for him, right? Even if you trade it for Kyle Tucker, you still don't have a position for Cody Bellinger. Not if you believe in Michael Busch and Pete Crow-Armstrong. It would open up the DH spot a little bit for him, but you're not going to pay all that money for a DH. So the Cubs are going to move him out. So who knows? Maybe the Cubs win Tucker and then the Yankees win Bellinger, and that's how this thing kind of pans out. Now, a prospect that's name has popped up in this mix is Will Warren of the Yankees, their number 5 prospect. And this guy, he's got a 4-2-seam fastball, cutter, slider, changeup, curveball. He throws hard, and he's someone that we're kind of starting to hear his name could be involved in a trade between the Cubs and the Yankees if the Bellinger deal were to happen. Now, fingers crossed that this goes down. Because I feel like for the Cubs that they're going to have to move Bellinger out to have money to go out and do some other stuff. And they need to do some other stuff. Now, not involved in that mix, which I still think they need a catcher. And I still think that they got to work on the bullpen. And I'm still not enamored with the starting rotation other than the front end guys, a healthy Justin Steele And, you hope that you get the same thing out of Shota Imanaga, and who knows. But another guy that we've talked a lot about and the Cubs are making their pitch for right now is Roki Sasaki. And I think that the Cubs could be a really good fit for Sasaki, and partially because Sasaki is really landlocked in this first contract, meaning that he's not going to be able to really test the market for his abilities, right? He's only allowed to make $7.5 million. But with the Cubs and the endorsements, the uniform, the fan base, Sasaki could make a lot more money in doing the stuff off the field than if you go somewhere else. Plus, he would be just a super addition to the Cubs. You're talking about a guy that had a 2.02 ERA in Japan, dominated, struck out 524 batters in 414 innings. He's a strikeout pitcher. And then on top of that, he would already know and get to play with Shota Imanaga. And then, if Seiya Suzuki's not traded, he'd be there as well. But Chicago is a great city for the Japanese players. They look just fantastic in that Cubs uniform. I think everybody looks fantastic in that Cubs uniform. But Shota came in and he won the city over, right? Everybody loved him when he came in and was citing "Go Cubs Go" in his opening press conference. The difference is that Sasaki is, whereas Shota's kind of in the middle of his prime, Sasaki's just starting to get there. And eventually what will happen is he'll probably do a shorter term deal. And then once that's over, he'll go out and make a ton of money because he'll be able to truly test free agency. But his age and Major League Baseball rules kind of have him capped out. So Cubs are making their pitch there as well. And that's where we are. Now, if the Tucker deal gets done or the Bellinger deal gets done, we'll jump on here from wherever we're at and talk about that with you guys. This is a really fun time. This roster's in flux. Some of you guys are going to be like, hey, we're about to get rid of our best players, Sasaki. If you don't get him, what's your rotation going to look like? The way that it is now, but you give up Bellinger and you give up Seiya Suzuki. Those are two, of the position players that were the best on the team. How's that going to affect things? Look, the team was 83 and 79. So it's not like you're breaking up the 2016 Cubs. And so that's why, to me, I kind of feel like, hey, you know what? It's time to roll the dice. And if you get Tucker in there and he makes a difference and you break in these young players and you give Craig Counsell guys that kind of match his style, and you hope that Tucker stays healthy, because when he is, he's one of baseball's best players. He gives the Cubs that presence, right? Guy that's won a World Series, a guy that's led a team, and a guy that comes in with the same type of pedigree as the star players on other teams, like the Mookie Bettses, like the Bryce Harpers. And you're going to need those guys to win. I mean, every team seems to have one. Manny Machado of the Padres. The Cubs need a guy like that. And as much as I like Bellinger, he's been more of a table setter, or at least he was last year, than a table cleaner. So you tell me what you guys think. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. We'll keep an eye on this whole process, and we will talk to you guys again as soon as something happens. And if not, then regular time tomorrow. But go Cubs.